These 20 minutes, let us move to a different level of understanding of this leading edge and this wave of transformation. As we have said, obviously, wherever it is you decide to position yourself, either at the leading edge or in the wake, there will be consequences commensurate to whatever vibratory gradation you are choosing to reside in. I will now explain and describe one of the effects that is now going on relative to us and others like us with respect to this vibrational wave of your leading edge of critical mass consciousness. Some time ago, in terms of time as you count time, we told you that things would be speeding up, and that if you did not align yourself very rapidly with your true passion, it's not that you couldn't do it later, but that you would make it more difficult to do later because you would feel that you had to hurry up and catch up, and there would be more details for your rational mind to have to deal with and integrate in order for you to match the frequency of the now accelerating leading edge of that wave. Here is another example of what we mean by that, and why it is so important, if you wish to be true to yourself, to really let yourself go to ride that leading edge and not hang back. But again, it's up to you. But here is another effect with respect to us. You must understand, we have an agreement with your collective consciousness. In order for us to be able to interact with you in this way, in order for us to be able to impart these kinds of ideas and this kind of information to you and to share with you and discuss with you these notions, we have to abide by the vibrational agreement we have made. As you accelerate, and I know this is going to get a little bit heady, but follow along. It'll be worth it. As you accelerate, every moment you change, you are creating new parallel realities to go along with the change in you. Because every change is a total change, as we have said. And when you talk about total change, we mean universal change. So every change is a whole new parallel reality. Even if one parallel reality may be only different from another by one atom, it's still a completely different reality. Totally different. And as you change and as you make decisions, you go through, you bring yourself through a succession of parallel reality shifts so automatically, so smoothly, you don't even always recognize that that's what you're doing. But you see, movement itself, the perception of movement of any kind, is actually the perception of a succession of parallel realities. This is one reality. This is another. 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 And in between those positions were an infinite number of other parallel realities that we have all just agreed to go through together. And so we all think we're all in the same room at the same time, and that nothing much has changed except maybe that it's getting a little bit closer to lunch. But you see, for as many of you as are quote-unquote in the room, there are that many rooms, literally distinctly different rooms. And each of you is actually creating that room and all the people in it in your universe, just as someone else is agreeing to create that room and all the people in it in their universe. And those two points of view will actually not only be slightly different as points of view, they will not actually be different points of view of the same room at all. They will be points of view of completely different parallel reality rooms. The only reason you have a common experience at all is that you agree to in any way, shape, or form. But here is the thing. as you upgrade, as you levitate your frequency, as you raise it up and enlighten yourself and create parallel realities, shift yourself to parallel realities that are more representative of that change, then as we have said, certain things will no longer be experienced or perceived by you because they are simply no longer of the vibration of the new reality you have shifted to. This, we believe, we think, we suppose, we assume, you all kind of get. But what you may not realize is that our agreement with your higher consciousness allows us to interact with you in certain ways on certain levels. But when you shift yourself to another level, you are then allowed to perceive that aspect of us that has made the agreement to interact with you on that level. But if you don't shift to that level, you will not perceive that aspect of us that has agreed to interact with anyone on that level. And as things change, and as the leading edge of your collective consciousness moves forward toward critical mass, a lot of the positions farther down the line in the wake of the leading edge are vibrationally no longer representative of our ability to interact. And so, for anyone staying in those vibrations, we and all such information will begin to unplug and disappear from your reality as we move up the line. That's why we urge you to keep pace with us. Because if you experience that sensation of being left behind, it's not because we're leaving you behind. It's because you're choosing to be left behind. Because we are not in control of this. You are. It's your consciousness determining these different gradients within the collective wake behind the leading edge. We cannot and are not allowed to and are not in control of interacting at those points farther down the line anymore. We have no say in it. When your collective consciousness determines that somewhere far down the wake is no longer vibrationally conducive to the vibration of our interaction with your consciousness in that state, then it is your collective consciousness that is making that reality experience happen. We cannot control that. We do not control that. We are not leaving anyone behind. You are choosing to be left behind if you no longer experience us or information of this nature in those states. That's why we urge you, come with us. Come with us. We are always inviting you to come with us. But coming with us means you must change. Because where we are all going, the you have been cannot exist. So we are constantly inviting you to come with us. If you don't come with us, it's not because we have left you out. It's because you have. We don't wish you to. That's why we constantly invite you to change and are constantly reflecting the nature of that change so that when you pick up on it and when you match our frequency, you can change in that way and be equals with us on that level and move forward toward more and more and more and more and more crystallized realization and manifestation of contact, wherein we will then be on a similar enough vibratory level that we can simply continually interact from that point forward. But if you don't move forward through what you may perceive to be changes you don't want, you will not be able to actually experience that reality, and you will no longer be able to experience us or anything like us, because we will simply no longer be germane for the gradient in which you have chosen to remain. Ooh, that rhymed. This is the nature of our agreement with your collective consciousness. So it's out of our hands, and that's why we've always said it's completely up to you. Completely up to you. But things are accelerating. Things are changing. That's the reason why you perceive changes in us. Changes in our agenda. Changes in our accessibility, our availability. Come with us. Come with us and learn new ways of accessing what we are, what you are, what the universe is. And then you will know you are never cut off. You are never left behind. You are never out of touch if you don't prefer to be. But the physical mind may say, again with its rational self, but I want to be in touch this way or that way. But that may not be conducive to the leading edge. Therefore, in its insistence to be in charge, it will remain where it chooses to remain, and it will receive the consequences of the vibration of that gradient. No more, no less. And it can choose to change from there anytime it wishes, but again, it will do so in a different way. And it will not necessarily have available to it the same things it did have when it had the opportunity to take advantage of the things that existed in that gradient for as long as they did. Move with it. Move with it. Ride the wave. Come with us. Come with us. Come with us. We invite you. We invite you. Your higher self invites you to be whole, to be a whole person. The whole secret to the secret is nothing more than just really being willing to be yourself, your full self, and act like it, and behave like it, and know that it's always in your best interests to do so. Always in your best interest to do so. Because that's the definition of being whole. The only way it would not be in your best interest is for the physical mind to make that assumption and behave as if that's true. And of course, if the physical mind believes that's true, then for the physical person, it will be true. And that will be the experience. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, but it's in your hands. It's not in ours. We are not in charge of your collective consciousness. You are. So make up your mind where you wish to be. Remember who you are. Remember that you are equal. Let go of the reasons you are not. There is on your planet another, shall we call it, methodology, permission slip, style, technique, exercise, seminar, that discusses the issues of, again, money, as a symbol, as an idea, to discuss all these things. And it talks about the symptomologies, shall we say, the signs, the symbols that represent a certain state of being. It talks about the idea of how to recognize when you are in a state of self-victimization. The three main symptoms that it talks about are that when a person is exhibiting a state of self-victimization, they will usually do three main things. They will project blame on others for their situation. They will complain about the situation that they are in. And most paradoxically of all, they will actually justify being in that state of being. Blame, complaint, justification are the three main symptoms of self-victimization. So if your behavior exhibits these qualities, then you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that's the state of being you are choosing to be in. And that will not be conducive to riding the wave, the leading edge. It will be conducive to finding a spot somewhere in one of the swirling eddies down behind the wake, somewhere down the line where you can go ahead and spin your wheels as much as you wish. Until such time as you're tired of that and decide to start going with the flow. Up to you. We cannot change that for you. We cannot. It is not in our power. It is only in our power to remind you of who you are, and then through unconditional love to allow you to choose who you prefer to be. But there are always consequences to every choice. This is not a judgment. It is not a punishment. It is simply physics. All we are suggesting is that you relax your physical mind and get with the program. It's up to you. It's your program. And we're attempting to assist you by defining in detail what the program is, so that you can have clarity about what you're doing and what you prefer to do. And so you can make choices that are based on that clarity. After your lunch break, we will continue to discuss the notion of the difference between circumstances and state of being, the profound difference between these two concepts, and how to use it in a way that will serve you. And also, we will invite question, discussion on these subjects so that you, if you have anything rattling around in your physical mind that wasn't clear to you, either in the recording or in what we have now said, that you can bring it up, because we know those questions are there. He said this, she said this. What does that mean? I didn't think it was that way. What about this? What about that? Yes, all of that after your lunch break. So gather your minds, gather your questions, gather your discussions if you have them during your lunch. Enjoy it, relax with it, absorb it, and love yourselves, love yourselves, love yourselves. We will resume this transmission after your break. We thank you. Enjoy. How's it going?
And can soul fragments from the same higher self or oversoul be family members? For example, can cousins be soul fragments from the same higher self?
There's no such thing as soul fragments. There are souls. If you're calling a fragment one of the souls that is connected to an oversoul, well, all right, then we understand your terminology. But there are no soul fragments. Souls are whole beings.
Okay, and is it true that twins have the same oversoul?
They can. They don't have to, but they can. It may be very likely, but it doesn't have to be absolute.
In the case of identical versus fraternal, is there any difference regarding oversoul connection?
It is more likely that identical might be extensions of the same oversoul. Again, it's not an absolute. And it might be more likely that twins that are only fraternal and not identical might still be extensions of the same oversoul, or more likely extensions of different oversouls for different reasons. But again, you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Both are possible, but it's not an absolute. It depends on the purpose for the creation of the reflection of the twin or the triplet or what have you.
So I'm coming back to the idea of soul fragments. So there is no such thing as a soul fragment?
No. If you're referring to a soul fragment as simply one of the souls that make up an oversoul, then again, we understand the way you're using that terminology. But there is no such thing, aside from that expression, as a soul fragment. Souls are whole beings. There is no fragment of a soul.
Okay. And if this person's saying they know they're a soul with a body, but is it possible for an oversoul to have many different bodies?
Well, yes, that's exactly what an oversoul does. An oversoul has many different souls, and each soul can have an incarnational physical experience or a body. That's exactly the description of the idea of how the oversoul experiences itself, because many of the souls that make it up may choose to have incarnations in different places and different times, and all of that experience as physical beings feeds back through the soul to the oversoul that is having all those experiences at the same time.
And this person would love to know what determines the oversoul group that we end up being in. Also, once an oversoul group, is manifest, do we remain in that group permanently?
Yes. You don't end up being in an oversoul. You start out that way. That's who you are. You're part of that vibration. You're part of that larger aspect of all that is. And then as an individual soul, you are an extension of that oversoul. That's who you are. You don't end up being there.
And how common is it for people with the same oversoul to meet in the same lifetime?
It's quite common. There can be many counterparts that will cross paths with each other, maybe interact with each other in a variety of different ways. Again, it depends upon the purpose for such an interaction. So I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it's quite common.
And how do you explain the concept of souls parallel life experiences impacting our current life journey? And what implications does this have on the infinite potential of our souls?
Well, again, this is what we've talked about many times when you talk about the idea of incarnations, past, present, future, where you're making cross connections energetically, informationally, sharing that information between different experiences that all coexist simultaneously, whether they seem to be in your historical timeline or in a parallel reality, doesn't matter. You connect to what you need to connect to draw information and experience from what serves your particular life path. So you're always plugging into and unplugging from different experiences in parallel realities to inform your life path, as other beings are doing for you. Plugging into you to draw down your experience and information into them to help them with their life path, because it's just like one giant dynamic interactive internet. You're constantly sending and receiving information to different versions of extensions of different souls and parallel realities and what have you, in order to inform your path while you help others inform their path.